Hi, I am Isis with Sistah Scifi Wednesday. It's been a minute. I'm out here in these digital streets working hard to make Wednesday your new favorite day of the week. This week we'll be talking about The Ghost of Gwendolyn Montgomery by Clarence A. Haynes. That name might sound familiar because one, we've been posting a lot about it, and two, Clarence has been on twice. Oh, there's Clarence. Before, both times with Omar Epps. So we are excited to have Clarence on. We'll be joined with other co-hosts, but let me. Hey, Clarence, did you? Okay, let me do this one more time. Okay, so I accepted the request. Oh, yay, look, there's Books and Bounty. It's a really good book. Okay. Huh. Okay, great. So, Stephanie, good to see you on.
Oh, let's see what happened there.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay,
I
great.
think I have to send the invite now because Clarence is.
Okay. I'm just going to make sure. I didn't realize my computer is not plugged in.
All right. And I see Well Read and Ratchet. Oh, yeah. Okay, I was like, what's happening?
Good.
Hey, Clarence, I know you've been globetrotting.
Hey, how y'all doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you. Stephanie, hey, so good to see you.
Yay! And the gang's all here. All right. I also have. So, how we feeling today?
Should who wants to go first? Should I go first? I'm
Clarence
feeling
gets the honor. Let's
I'm
go.
Right.
I'm feeling good. Just thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see y'all, and just been. I'm actually here in DC at my friend's place. I'll be having an event with Loyalty Books tomorrow. So just sometimes feeling a little overwhelmed with dealing with juggling a lot, but feeling very thankful and grateful as well. How y'all doing?
I'll let you go first.
I'm good. I'm like have a lot going on and getting ready for Beyonce, but I'm ready. I'm excited.
Where are you?
I'm in Cleveland. I'm Key.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm in Cleveland, but I'm going to Atlanta, because I'm from the South,
Okay.
and
Cool.
it's limited dates, and I was like, okay, let's go visit family and see her in the South.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Very
going to
nice.
see Beyonce is definitely like visiting family. So you're just also, yeah.
So I saw her in New Jersey, and I won't say anything. I mean, I just think have the experience, and we will talk.
Let's do it.
Yay. Okay. And you're back.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. Yay. How you doing, Stephanie?
I'm doing well. How's everyone's evening?
Good.
Good. I love your frame.
Oh,
This
thank you. Thank
frame's
you.
fire. Yeah.
These are
Yeah.
a Black designer, official by Vontel.
Ooh,
Oh, wow,
fancy.
look that up. I don't have
Yeah,
mine on
like
right
they're
now.
getting a lot of love in the chat too. Erica Hardison is in the chat. Who, for folks who are at the Schaumburg Lit Festival, Erica was my co-host. So yeah, let's before we dive into the questions, I'm also trying to join, like watch on my laptop so I can drop the link to the book, but my laptop is acting weird for some reason, which is a bit frustrating. Anyway, so that if I look distracted, that's what's going on. Before we dive into the book, let's do a round of introductions. We know how you are, but we don't know who you are. Some of us may not know who you are. So Clarence, let's start with you.
Hi, everyone. I am Clarence A. Haynes. I am the author of The Ghosts of Gwendolyn Montgomery. It's a novel that just came out about, I guess, 3 weeks ago at this point, about a high-powered publicist who has a secret and mystical past and her connection to an Afro-Latinx psychic who was a botanica in the South Bronx and who's here to let us know that ghosts, angry ghosts, are about to invade our world. I've worked for a while as an editor, co-writer of Omar Epps' YA Afrofuturist series, Nubia, and just love books.
Yeah, I love it. Your publicist must be so proud because that pitch was like French kiss. So I love it. And I say that because I see you and your publicist are like besties. I was like, I've
Yeah.
never seen an author
Yeah.
so tight with their publicist. Like,
Oh, it's not.
so good
So
on you.
that's
I
my
love it.
that's my publisher. That's my editor.
Oh, that's your editor. That's not your
That's my
publicist.
editor. That's
Wow. Because
my
y'all be
publicist.
together. Y'all be everywhere together. I love it.
Yes.
Like,
Yes,
so much.
that's Krishan, who she is, she was very clear. She's like, this is what we're going to do. As this book is rolling out, I was like, okay.
Look, Krishan, I give power to Krishan because y'all know Clarence is an editor at heart, and so to edit an editor, I wonder how. But it's so refreshing to see how close you are because I always talk about how like that relationship needs to be like this between an author and their editor. So that's good to see.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
so,
great.
so nice. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I didn't mean, and Mike, who wants to go next in terms of introductions?
I'll go. I'm Key. I am a content creator who loves to share about my love of books, specifically diverse books. I like to share my love of independent bookstores as well. So this all happened. I just kept yapping about books, and people were like, "Okay, so are you gonna make a bookstagram?" I'm like, nobody wants to hear me talk about books, but I guess a few
We
people
do.
do. So right?
So thank
Yeah. And so I was
you.
just excited to be here.
Yay.
All right, well, everyone, my name's Stephanie Henderson. I own Books and Bounty, which is actually an editorial production company, but we have an online presence with Books and Bounty Live, where I host authors such as Clarence Haynes, and I got the fortunate benefit to host him on Books and Bounty Live back in April. So I can't wait for tonight because I have been like tight-lipped, like trying not to talk about this book. So I'm ready to kiki with all of you guys about the drama, the thrills, the horror, and everything else in The Ghost of Gwendolyn Montgomery.
The horror. Yay, I'm here for it. I'm Sistah Scifi. I am CEO and founder of Sistah Scifi. If you don't know, Sistah Scifi is the first Black-owned bookstore focused on science fiction and fantasy in the U.S. And today we're talking, if you somehow don't know, we're talking about The Ghost of Gwendolyn Montgomery, which I enjoyed. Definitely a must-read for fans of Terry McMillan, like if you enjoyed Disappearing Acts, if you're that old like me, but also if you loved Charmed, and I'm talking about the reboot, not the original. If you liked the originals, right? If you liked Burn Down, Rise Up by Vincent Torrado, this is your summer guilty obsession. And Gwendolyn's character she's smart, she's sexy, she's fierce, she's stylish, she's everything I want to be when I grow up. So thank you, Clarence.
You already are, Isis.
Aw, thank you. So we can hop into the questions. Stephanie Key, I sent questions for you too. They're guidance, so you can change them up.
I don't
Typically, I
have
would.
them.
You don't have them?
No, I can't get into the doc.
Okay.
But
Let
I was
me.
like,
Okay.
Stephanie she's trying to send them.
Give me 2.5 seconds. I will change the permissions.
We do one.
Okay. So you should have access to them now. Stephanie,
Okay.
did you get it?
Yeah, I got in.
Perfect. All right. So while Key says that, I'll ask the first question, which is obviously about Gwendolyn. Um, so Gwendolyn is fire. How did you shape her inner life and voice across the novel's arc? And were there any literary and or real world muses that influenced her character development?
Wonderful question. I knew that I wanted to basically write a book that would pay tribute to the powerful Black women that I grew up with that populated New York. I'm a native New Yorker, grew up in the 70s and 80s. And so, just in terms of women who were in my family, but women who I would work with professionally in publishing, women who I would see on the train. So, there's I believe the photo is 1977 from the Daily News of Shirley Chisholm and her second husband riding the New York City subway. And he's in a suit and she's in her dress and her wig and the glasses. And she's, looking very Shirley Chisholm, looking very hello. And, it's New York in the 70s. So the subway car is covered in graffiti. And it looks like that time. But there she is being her full glamorous, fully actualized, elegant self. And I felt like when I was little, these sorts of images, they stayed with me. It was like the promise of what I could be, who I could be, who I'd be working with, who I'd be in community with. And so those type of women just always stayed with me. And so I wanted to do a book that would pay homage to them, but also knowing, of course, one of my lifelong passions is speculative fiction, is sci-fi, fantasy, horror, all the things. And so I really had to think about how could I construct a story that would have this sort of protagonist and then play with mystical themes, and then also on top of that, honor my background as a native New Yorker of Panamanian descent. Certain types of communities, certain types of sensibilities I grew up with. I wanted that to be front and center in the story, particularly because we're usually not front and center. We're usually the afterthought. We're forgotten. We're like, oh, there's even such a place as this, So
Hmm.
so yeah.
Oh,
There was some noise in the background, so I put myself on mute. I loved her look. I love the cover. So thank you for giving us Gwendolyn Montgomery, her chosen name of Gwendolyn Montgomery. Stephanie,
And
next
yes,
question.
it's a big, yeah, and that's a big thing. People are coming to you like, oh, it's a constructed identity. Like, yes, the main character, that's not her birth
we can
name.
say
She has
that now.
created, we can say that now. She has created a persona for herself to make her way through this particular world that she's working and living in. So
Yeah, and speaking of like characters and character development, then we can now talk on Isis. Thank you for highlighting this passage for me in the next question because it talks about Fonzie, and this is one of the first things when I did my own sort of character analysis on Fonzie, I highlighted this passage as well, and it's on page 23 of the book if you guys have your book with you, where Clarence writes, Fonzie had learned long ago how to put others' needs before his own. And this plays out in different circumstances throughout the novel with real folks and with the supernatural. And the question then asks, why is Fonzie's growth in this dynamic important to you as a writer and important to the actual plot development of the book as well?
and can you say can you repeat the question? His growth, did you
His
say?
growth and the dynamic about being putting his needs before his own, some of the codependency relationship he has in the
Yes.
book. There's even a point, I think I can talk about this point because it really describes his character, but it also describes I think it's an ode to your writing as well. And it's how, as a medium, Fonzie can get closer connection to figures and those in the supernatural world. And he becomes shaggy and unkept. And I think it's a perfect, wonderful, fantastic explanation of when you see folks out in the world that look that way and are talking to folks and you don't know who they're talking to. But that also shows again how Fonzie is putting others' needs before his own. Like he knows this, and so How does that play out for you as you were writing
So
Fonsi? Because I know from our conversation, this is a personal character for you.
is a personal character. A lot of Fonzie's journey was inspired by my own, and Stephanie just kind of went straight to the heart of the matter. So I'll explain to people there. So there are two main characters. There's Gwendolyn, the title character, and then there's a second character that people who have read the book have discovered is Fonzie, and he's a Panamanian. As I mentioned in the beginning of the chat, he's a Panamanian American psychic who was a botanica. He also is having what's basically forbidden sex with the spirit. And in terms of the order he belongs to, he's not supposed to be doing this, but he's doing this because in terms of what he's just come out of with his ex-boyfriend and just his general experiences dating in New York, he's just felt it's just been very hard, and so he feels like he turns to this. In terms of Stephanie, your question around that particular passage, I wanted to, as I sat with the story and as I was developing the characters, I knew I wanted to do a contrast between him and Gwendolyn and what's happening for them when it comes to how they handle who they are, their inner needs, how their past has impacted a desire for them. So, for instance, Gwendolyn is keeping herself very, very walled off from pretty much everyone, for most people, yet she's a person who has desires, who yearns for certain types of connections, and yet she's walling herself off. I would argue, though, she's quite aware of what she needs, what she yearns for. Fonzie, on the other hand, because so much of his work has been about helping other people connect with ghosts, loved ones, spirits, those who have recently departed. He's not really spent a lot of time contemplating what he might need, who he is. And he sees his worth as being what he can do for other people. And that's very much connected to, as we learn more about his history with his mom, how he was treated, sort of unresolved yearning that he's had from childhood. And I firmly believe, a huge theme of the book is obviously the past, like literal ghosts, but metaphorical ghosts. And I truly believe if we don't reckon with the things that have hurt us, if we've in some way been traumatized just know that there was something that was off about what we experienced during childhood. If we don't reckon with that in some way, that it'll stay with us, it will impact us in our adult lives. And so I wanted to explore that with both of those characters. But with Fonzie, this dynamic of putting others before himself is a key clue to what he's missing. And it's also part of his tragedy, right? Because he's forging all these connections for other people, and yet he doesn't really fully get himself, So
Yeah. Wait, did you mute yourself?
I muted myself because my dog is out. And it's a time in the apartment complex where she's kind of, so. But it was funny that I read this question about one of the ghosts tethering themselves to Toni Morrison's a copy of Sula, because I happen to just wear my Toni shirt.
Oh yes! Oh, I didn't realize you. Oh, and I love that. I love that. Yeah. I love those images. Yeah, I didn't even see it first.
Yes, like her in the disco.
Yes, like just short. Yes. Like, oh my God, Tony got down like that. Yes, I remember the first time I saw it.
Yes.
Remember? Yeah. Me too. I said.
And I love that book. So when I got to that part, I was like, you know what? Like, okay, what book? I probably would tether myself to a book. Like, what book would I tether myself to? But what object would you tether yourself to?
Oh, that is a great question. It would Probably for now, I would say, because the rules are, even though in the book I'm having ghosts tether themselves to individual things, and that's the most common thing, I do say that ghosts can actually tether themselves to property or a space as well. And so I would probably right now, just in terms of how I'm living, it'd probably be a library. And it would have to be like some sort of library that has mostly a fusion of Black literature and then speculative fiction, but it would need to be something where there would need to be a particular type of fusion where I've become increasingly so sensitive to when we're not put in the spotlight or when we're still treated like side salad or disposable characters. Like, it's to the point where I literally can't take it. Like, so it would need to be some sort of live, maybe I would have I sort of have this in my living room at home. But let's say maybe hopefully, will construct a full library that would really embody my taste, and that would be the space that I would tether myself. Like, it would be like its world unto itself, and I would maybe if I wasn't really fully ready to let go, I might linger.
Listen, because those TBRs are so long, I'm like, I'm gonna have to read this in the afterlife. Like,
Right.
at this point,
At this point, I don't know if I'm a collector or a reader, right?
I'm gonna tell you this though. There's Isis. There's a and I always forget the name of. There's a famous used bookstore in Los Angeles, and I visited it. Is it like the last book?
is it last call? Is it the one that has that like circle? Like, I see pictures all the time. It's like a circle of books and people like take.
I
like,
think so.
go
I think
Instagram.
yeah. I
Los Angeles, yeah.
I haven't saved.
There's a
some,
used
like,
book. There's a used book. I think you're right, Key. And it has a rare. I was there once and it has a rare book room, and I went inside and there was something in there, and I don't profess that I can communicate with ghosts or that what I've written is based on specific real world experiences, but I do know when I feel something is in the space, and I was in that rare book room. I was like, oh, there's something.
Someone's tethered to that
I just kind of stood.
something.
Yeah, I just stood for a moment. I was very quiet. I was very reverent, and then I said, "Okay, it's time for me to get."
I love that. I love that you would tether to a library. I'm having a love affair with libraries right now. I'm like, which library would be the library that, like, Clarence is talking about? So I'm gonna keep, like, I was like, is it the Schomburg? It's not quite the Schomburg. So we're gonna look for your library someplace. Okay. Oh, it's me. Clarence, would you like to read an excerpt?
Sure. I'll make it a short one though, because I think I like us talking. Let's see. And I'll make it one. Should I make it one that's PG?
Yes.
The language.
Yes,
The language in the book is. Okay. So I'm going to read a passage where it's Gwendolyn. In the beginning of the book, Gwendolyn has put on a big event at the Brooklyn Museum. She's put on a big fashion show, and it's something that's going to really help her agency, which is struggling financially, to get themselves, back together. And I'm just going to jump into the show. She's sitting with this new dude she's met, James, and things start to happen that aren't supposed to happen. So I'm just going to jump in. Gwendolyn's phone vibrated in her skirt pocket. Media hits were coming in, she was sure. Notes of praise from people tuning into the live broadcast. but more importantly, offers to hold meetings to shore up branding deals for LaMarque and Veronica. Potential clients peeping the show would soon be reaching out, asking for opportunities to work together. New income was on the horizon. Sublime would be okay, financial woes over. Yes. James took Gwendolyn's hand and gently squeezed her fingers. She glanced over, saw tears streaming down his face as he gazed upon what she'd created. Confirmation that she brought awe and grace to others with her work. Yes. Gwendolyn felt rejuvenated, able to breathe for the first time in days. Energy pulsing beneath her skin, energy she pushed down by instinct. She could refocus, enjoy the show, exult in her agency's future success, exult in being with her man. As the models walked out, craggy red streaks appeared at the runway entrance, flowing onto the floor. Some sort of paint. Gwendolyn let go of James's hand. This effect wasn't in the production doc. More crimson paint flanked the runway as if being poured onto the platform. What's going on? James whispered. Gwendolyn smelled something, the faint odor of copper. The models continued their walk, undeterred. One model slipped on the paint and fell to the ground, letting out a tiny shriek as her feet were swept out from beneath her. Gwendolyn jumped from her feet and dashed to the runway. Are you okay? She asked as she leaned over the platform and reached out for the young woman. A second model fell, pulling down another, and then another. No, Gwendolyn thought. Veronica kept singing but looked over with a question in her eyes. Should we stop? The special black light filling the lobby was too dim for Gwendolyn to discern what was happening. She pivoted from the runway and ran to the control booth, discreetly positioned behind coat check. The technician responsible for the show's effects was still as a rock, dumbfounded. Turn on the light, she shouted as she grabbed him by the arm, the air now so cold that her breath had begun to mist. The man glared briefly at Gwendolyn and flipped two buttons on his console. The entire museum flooded with light. Gwendolyn's heart pounded. She could see. Everyone could see. Veronica stopped singing. The musician stopped playing. A statuesque man with long platinum hair and a flowy pantsuit rushed onto the runway from backstage and bent down to assist the model. LaMarque, his face crushed. Gwendolyn was just as horrified. The show a catastrophe. The runway, the walls, the models, all covered in scarlet paint. No, that wasn't right. Not paint. Blood. The metallic scent in the air should have told Gwendolyn all she needed to know. The same scent that had permeated morning dreams. She blinked, looked down, her linen suit splattered. Gwendolyn fought a wave of nausea. A multitude of sounds filled her ears as she absorbed everything. LaMarque was on stage cursing, the blood-soaked models in tears. Jessica leapt onto the runway to help. Veronica's jaw scraped the stage. Clive ran toward the museum's exit, bodyguard in tow. James was frozen in his chair, head buried in his chest. Thick, streaking crimson everywhere. Cold, numbing Gwendolyn's fingers. Something appeared on the back wall of the runway, smeared, dripping, hard to read. She squinted. It was in Spanish, letters large and jagged, grotesque. Traidora. Traitor.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, so wedded to Gwendolyn's success by the time it got there. And I so like, it felt like that was happening to me, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely I was talking on threads about this to the people. I was like, I see this as a movie. Like everything was so vivid, and I was like, I pictured it one way, but I also would like to see it. I mean, I don't want to get ahead, but like, yes, I was just like, I feel like I was in that moment.
Yeah, it's I think so. I wanted to. My style of writing sometimes can be action oriented, but then just in terms of the circumstances, basically it's a fashion show, And so I was like, well, how am I going to make this like snap? So it was something I try to pay attention to, and thank y'all so much. And people have been saying that it feels, that's been a very common comment that people have been saying. It feels quite cinematic, and so I think it's I don't know, just my writing style, what feels right to me. And I always want the story to feel like it's moving, like I always want, and I think one way of doing that is sort of immersing folks in a scene and then and then keeping things going. Though I do love, as Isis knows, I think from Nubia as well, I do love to have characters sit down and ruminate. Like that's something I can't seem to help myself. So.
And both are great, and they're a good balance. Glad you're back, Stephanie. I don't know what
Thank
happened,
you.
but you're back.
I don't know either. All of a sudden, like my phone just went black, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness! Of course now it would." But I'm back. And so the next question, and this is again another spot on ISIS, because in this book there are many examples of not only Black joy but also Black love, both of the family familiar blood kind and also the kind of family. Enter Tariq, who is Fonzie's best friend, and also the son of a very powerful guardian. I think Estelle is his mom's name,
Yes,
if I'm not
correct.
mistaken. Yes.
Correct.
And Isis has highlighted a passage on 56 that describes the family dynamic in Tariq's home. For Fonzie, Tariq's family were walking, talking embodiments of the way of absolute candor, which is a philosophy espoused by the warrior alien nuns from one of his favorite Star Trek Picard's episodes. The Bailey's lack of shame about telling it like it is, both torturous and a balm to the soul. And so we've talked about like how some of the inspiration is biographical in this novel. How does the family dynamics play out from examples in your own rearing, but also in sort of an aspirational sense of found family and the sort of the folks we seek to bring around us?
Um, I love this. Wow, I love that question. I will say this. I would say my family has a lot of, the Tariq's mom is Estelle. His father is Addison. They're the Baileys, basically. And my family has a lot of qualities of the Baileys in terms of like fun, irreverent, can be very direct, can be very mischievous. A lot of the mischief, I have a mischievous soul, and a lot of that I get from my family. Even while you can inhabit that emotional space and still be connected and loving and be edgy, go there, but still know we have each other's back. And so that's something I really adore about my family. I don't think my family is not as comfortable with directness as the Baileys are. That's something that's very much more sort of aspirational. But I wanted to put that because I thought, and it's not perfect. I do think hey doggy. I do think Tariq, for instance, maybe his boundaries are a bit off. Like, maybe in terms of how we know friendships are supposed to work, he oversteps and sometimes isn't as sensitive as he needs to be. But I will say, I think one thing I wanted to show with the Baileys is that they really are able to be so direct with each other and everyone who comes in their lives. And it's from that place that they're able to love, that they're able to be like, oh, because we don't hide things, we're able to communicate openly. If we feel something for you, if we know you need support, if we know you need help, if we're going to do something, we're here, we do it. We can just be all about that. And that's something I just thought I really wanted to showcase. And I felt it was also a nice juxtaposition with Fonzie's home life with his mother, where there was a lot more, there were a lot more secrets, things were more shut down. She was dealing with a lot of unresolved pain from her past that we're hinted at, but we don't fully know. But it definitely affected how she treated her son and how they lived and and then when their cousins. So there's another character named Hiselda, and that's all I'll say about that character. I don't want to spoil who she is, but when then his another relative came to live with them, it wasn't the same as the Baileys. But I wanted to present the Baileys as almost being like this aspirational family unit that was also um, supposed to be comedy relief on some levels, and then also but also their dynamic, it was meant to be refreshing as well. Like clearly Estelle runs the show, had her own business, her husband adores her, and he's stuck in the 80s with his Jerry curl, and and then sometimes he doesn't wear clothes, and then Tariq is pansexual, just doesn't have any problem with expressing desire for whoever he finds whoever he's interested in. So I just wanted to do just have this dynamic that would just be like counterpoint to what Fonzie grew up in. So
Speaking of that, as you mentioned the juxtaposition of the different families, because I love them, the found family, but then you have Madrina, who my Spanish, I need a little flair to kind of, but she kind of was like a fairy godmother, but then she kind of was like also a wicked stepmother. How do you feel? Would you consider her as a villain?
all of these questions are great, and they're the first times I'm being asked some of these things. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
I Yes, she is. She does do villainous things.
What's
Like the things she
happening for
does.
you? Like that was like a very heavy yes. Like
Yeah, because she does do things that hurt people. Like I mean, at the end of the day, she does. She does do she makes decisions that have larger implications for innocent people. Like the ghost invasion. This idea that a whole bunch of disgruntled ghosts are about to invade our world. She, in many ways, is largely responsible for that. But the more we get to learn about her and the situation, we understand that in some ways she's maybe more of a tragic villain, that she's not operating from a place of malice or wanting to dominate people. It's more from a place of pain, hurt, and that just sort of ate away at her soul, and I really think was at the root of why she makes some poor decisions that then end up hurting other people. So yeah, and I think that's a case with so many um, uh, people who do things that are just like, oh, what are you doing? I think if you go into their backstory, you find out there's some sort of tragedy. They're hurting. There's something that's rotting, and they don't know how to deal with it, wrecking with it. So
right. I agree.
and also, but yeah, I was gonna say, Kia, it's interesting because one person pointed out to me, an early reader, they said, "Oh wow," because they thought Madrina was going to be a heroic character, and then as the book progressed, they're like, "Oh," I was like, "What's going on?" So yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. I was apprehensive. I don't know if I'm a little jaded. I don't know. I work in healthcare and I see stuff happen all the time, like
You
foster
knew. You
parents.
said.
I was like, we'll see. We'll see.
I didn't even question, like when we met her, I didn't question her goodness. Like not for a second. I was like, oh my God, what a sweet and wonderful character, right? So, yeah, but I can be very naive and wildly optimistic. So we have Madrina on one side, but conversely, we have like Fonzie, Bo, James. There's so many examples of quote unquote good black men in The Ghost of Gwendolyn Montgomery. Do you feel like this is a departure from contemporary black literature?
You know what? I don't know if I'm comfortable saying it's a departure. I don't know if I would use that language per se, but what I was very cognizant of is that I did feel like there are still depictions of black men that are a particular way, that they fit a particular model template. And with everything I write, I'm always really interested in subverting these ideas of if you are this, you're supposed to be this, and particularly around like gender, sexual orientation, all of the things. And so particularly with black men, I was just like, oh, well, I don't really think, like in the book, it's pretty much the black and brown women who are running the show, and you don't have these men like, oh, she's running the show, like, there goes my manhood. Like, they're like, oh, she's running the show. Like, they're delighted, and I also wanted them to present them in a way but that's not then taking away from elements of the character that might somehow play into traditional masculinity, because that can exist as well. So I was just very and also a huge thing I wanted to make sure to include as well was just their loving, like James, and particularly James and Mr. Bailey are just super. James is a little more buttoned up, and Mr. Bailey is just like, love, 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 love. And so I just needed to show that, because I've met men like that, and I'm like, I still don't think they're sufficiently presented on the page, because somehow I think stoicism, hardness, toughness, being mean is still valued over these other traits that men regularly embody. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of imperfection as well. I think I think Fonzie and Arturo, who is his artist friend who is starting to crush on Gwendolyn, they're definitely meant to be clearly positioned as good guys, but not perfect.
Yeah.
Arturo has a history of not really devoting himself to his craft as an artist and being a little woo-woo. And, Fonzie, as we said, is figuring out who he is. So, and when you're in that process, you're going to make mistakes. So,
Yeah.
I like to say, when you talk about them being flawed, this is a very superficial flaw, because when you talked about the sounds that James made, you ruined it for me. I was like, the whole time I kept thinking about this combination of dogs. I bust out laughing at that part. But every time James came up, and I was like, what was it, like a pug? And I was just like, oh my God, I can't look at you seriously, sir.
But here's the thing,
I
because I
stopped taking
thought
James seriously as well too. Like I just eye roll into eye roll.
it's funny you said that, because my editor, Krishan, she was like, I don't know. And she was like,
It was so
she was like,
funny,
but
though.
he's gonna seem so corny, Clarence. I was like, no, he has to be, it's okay. I think we gotta
I was
But
shaking
I
my
wanted
face when I read that. I was like,
here's the thing. I wanted to write a dude who's supposed to be sexy and really into sex and really into Gwendolyn and knows what he's doing, but there's something about it that's still gonna be off and goofy. Like, he's just not like a perfect
That's the
lover.
biggest
Like,
word I wrote next to James. I said he is goofy AF.
he's goofy. And I wanted to like challenge them. Does that like detract from like someone's like appeal, from someone's sexiness? Like, would that like ruin just the deal? Like, because think about it, that dude like is able to put it on, is able, like, does everything, except he just makes weird noises. And that can pull one out of the moment if you're not ready for that. But everything else, he's wonderful, So I didn't want it to feel too perfect. That was my thing. I also wanted it to be a bit funny. So
it was definitely funny. I loved it.
It did ruin James for me, because I was like, he's tall, he's smart, he's caring, he's kind, he's well educated. I'm good.
And he does the things like he's totally like devoted to am I turning you? Like, he's totally devoted to making sure that Gwendolyn is being taken care of. She's turned on. He's asking but he's imperfect. He makes weird noises.
I just couldn't get the dogs out of my head every time. I was just like, okay, let's see. I was like,
Yeah. So So I'm up next. And the way I like to frame this question is, and you've been on tour. The books have been out for a little bit over 3 weeks now. It's almost hit the 30-day mark. And so you've been stopping into bookstores and places like that. And have they got it right when it comes to who they're putting you next to? And this means this sort of the conversation of the question of who do you see, or what do you see? What other books would you feel that the Ghosts of Gwendolyn Montgomery is in conversation with? And I'm interested to know if folks are getting that right when it comes to how they're positioning you in the store.
That's you know what? I have been, because I've had back-to-back events, and then I've been able to visit a few bookstores and sign stock. So when so my bookstore visits so far have been a bit limited, but when I have seen it in the store, like I haven't even like done like my like, go to different Barnes and Nobles, which is something a lot of people do. And um a lot of times it's in like the new book section, so it's not even necessarily like categorized yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, or it's in the general fiction section, which is interesting because I was like, I think one place had it in sci-fi fantasy. But to be honest with you, I expected that. One of the things, I haven't been able to post this on social because I've just been so busy with everything going on. But in roundups, it was in a roundup on Ebony and yes, in Ebony, it was an Ebony roundup. It was in a LGBTQ plus special reads roundup. It was in a uh genre fusion roundup from Book Riot and Reactor magazine. And then what was another one? Was there horror? So all that to say, it's intersectional.
Yeah.
It's speaking to different sensibilities in many ways. It's a genre fusion. And so when we were seeing these roundups and how they were all coming from these different platforms saying, "Oh, this is the LGBTQ plus book. This is a Black book. This is the sci-fi fantasy fusion book. This is the horror." But we're like, okay, then that means that some people are getting it, and so I think that's then going to inform where it's going to be placed. I fully expect that'll probably just depend on the sensibilities of the store and what they prioritize. Like I feel like the biggest person who, and this will make Isis smile, I'm sure, the person who I think it's in at least a bit of conversation with is Tananarive Dew's. Yeah, like that would be someone, whoever they put her, I would hope. I like, put me
She's
right in that section. So because I think she's more, in some ways her sensibilities are more serious than mine. I know I tend to infuse sort of mischief and humor in certain ways, that are different from her writing. But I just think, yeah, she'd be someone who I wouldn't mind being grouped with. So
Yeah, I mean, Tanana Reedy, like you said, she's a bit more, I guess, bookish, if you would like to say, like a bit more serious. But she fuses like historical fiction. This is just her new book, the Reformatory. You do a little bit
yeah.
of that in here too. You with the illusions and metaphors related to the Bronx fires of the mid-century, the late mid to mid-century. Was it the 70s, right?
It was
Um,
70s to
the
80s.
70s.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, when I first read the short synopsis of the book, and I was like, oh, he's doing a lot of genre bending. How's this going to turn out? Like, it excited me, but it was also like, uh-oh, it's a skeptical. But I also had faith in you because of the work you've done in the past. And your role as an editor, right? Like the care you would put into that. And it turned out to be such a delight. The fact that it's like I said, this could go on any niche, I think, book club this summer when it comes to literary fiction, cultural fiction, especially. I mean, the Latina Dad is up and through here all and over, and the diaspora experience. So I really appreciated that. And what was that process like? You know, we talk about Krishan and some of the things that she was like, I don't know. Like, was there every point where she was just like, okay, this is too much? Like,
Yes, there was. Absolutely. But Stephanie, you know, because you're a professional, so you know. Yes, there was. Because there were times I was so firstly, thank you so much for the kind words. So when it came to so it's been interesting. To your earlier point, when it comes to the genre fusion of it all, I do think I've noticed in terms of some early readers and early reviews, some people, it seems most people are liking it. It does seem that some of the more mixed reviews, it seems it's a little bit because they're like, I was thrown off. I was expecting, as I started to often say, like, sometimes if you're a horror person or a romance person, you're expecting certain things at a certain time with certain beats, and this isn't going to do that. And so I think for some people, they're like, was a little not sure where this was going to go or what was happening, and then they stayed with it and they're like, oh, I see, oh, I get. So I'm hoping that I do think genre fusion is just going to become more and more of a regular thing, and so I'm hoping that people will just sort of go along for the ride and be open, and particularly part of my purpose, I hope, is to bring as many people to the speculative fiction world as I can. And then in terms of what you said, was Krishan ever like too much? Absolutely. The one thing that came up was, so the rules and the world building around the Guardians, around the mystical order that Fonsi belongs to, the Baileys belong to, and his cousin, in that it's obviously inspired by and references real world spiritual traditions, West African traditions, Santeria, Catholicism, yada yada. We can to do the full thing, but I'm not a practitioner, and it wouldn't have been right for me to sort of say this is like a legitimate interpretation of these beliefs, and I think it would have been exploitative, quite frankly. And so I purposely did world building that would just be its own separate thing. So the rules for the Guardians, own separate thing. But at one point, because I was so cognizant of like honoring these traditions, some of which particularly some of the practitioners really went through hell, like, really were killed and persecuted, and so I sometimes was like putting in so much around background, and I was putting in, so there's a particular a little bit of a spoiler, I guess, but there's a particular Orisha who is at the center of things, and I was putting in background information. I did a prologue that was giving information, like a story around this particular Orisha, and recontextualizing it. And my editor was like, what does this have to do? And I was like, what does it have to do with? It doesn't have anything to do with, but because I was so frightened of getting it wrong, or the book might feel like I'm not giving sufficient respect to certain belief systems and traditions, I put in a lot more stuff that then I was like, oh, this isn't relevant to the main story. So.
Yeah.
Though the idea of a prologue.
Oh, go ahead.
Though the idea of a prologue does seem very exciting to me, but your editor is probably right. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Well, because I was going to say that it was accessible in that way, and not to put it like on the surface, but it's like, if you're a Black reader and you've read a few Black books, a little bit of culture, you can get through this book and be entertained by it and not be bogged down by that background, or not feel, or even if you are a practitioner, I don't think you would feel as exploitive, because it's like, this is the stuff that's happening around all around us when we go to the bodega, when we talk to our friends who are practitioners.
Right.
Like, this is the stuff that we pick up and we would know and be able to reflect upon it in a caring way, but maybe not like a deep practitioner way. And I think that you did just that in the book, and it was refreshing. Like, I really enjoyed the fusion of it all.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was something I was just very mindful of, and for a minute I think it was sometimes getting in the way of just like letting the story just be what it needs to be, because my editor, exactly what you said was my editor's vision, and she was like, she was like, you can relax. I don't think it's not, you don't have to be like, oh my god, I must get every single little thing in there and somehow explain this here and put this here and that. She was like, no, you gotta let the story breathe. So thank
Yep.
you.
That's a good way to play. So I tell people you gotta let it
Yeah.
breathe. In the famous verse.
I definitely loved it as well. So when I remember when I first saw the cover, it just like stopped me in my tracks, and I was like, I don't know what it's about, but I gotta read it. I don't know, like that TikTok sound, like a black girl's on the cover, like yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about that and what we were talking about earlier about seeing this on screen, like who would you want to play Gwendolyn?
So right now, my top choice would be, and I would welcome any other suggestions you have, but my top choice is Jodie Turner-Smith.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh, oh, I
Exactly.
can
Yeah.
see it.
Yes.
Yes.
Because
Spot- mm,
Gwendolyn is very a bit is a bit this. If you were to see in the world, she's a bit, but when necessary, she can switch. And I just, in terms of what I know of, Jodie Turner Smith, in addition to just being beautiful and I see like, oh, she can do the like, I am a professional woman, and put it on, and then but then if you could also play the character in a way with like, there is something underneath
Yes.
happening,
mm,
and so yeah, you know,
Yeah.
we'll see what we can do. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, who do you see for Fonzie?
That's a harder question. There's someone who I guess you would say works in the he's like a model, works in the world of like, I guess, like erotic Brazilian movies. But there's a Brazilian person. He's not a star. He's not a famous person. But I was like, oh, in passing, I was like, oh, that's who. But I can't think of like any. So far, I haven't been able to like put my finger on exactly in terms of like celebs. Um,
Yes.
yeah, in the mix right now, who would be a good? So I would welcome any suggestions for that.
He's not famous, but I don't know if y'all watched the 3%. And then there was the guy, the character was in a wheelchair.
I haven't
So
seen
yeah,
it
I'm
yet.
gonna find it and I'm gonna check
So
out
now
and
I
stuff
want to
like
go
that.
Google it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he was in the first 2 seasons or something like that. What? Okay. So we have 3 minutes left and we have like, well, okay, we're gonna skip the last question. Because the last question is, what's a question that you wish we asked, but we did a perfect job, so we asked all the questions, so I don't have to worry about that question. Um, the next set of questions is my second favorite part of the live. My first favorite part is everything we've been doing this whole time, and so it's this or
I
that,
know.
Clarence. You
I
you
know.
know
I've done this before with you, and you know what happens.
And you know, oh, and I realized, when I
they're
finished
hard
listening, I was like, wait,
too.
yeah, I was like, some of the questions are the same. So, like, hopefully your answers are the same, or maybe they've changed. Okay, so we can all answer, right? So it's not just for Clarence. If you can drop your answers in the chat, I'll see them in the chat. I'll bring them into the conversation. These are hypothetical, no weight questions. So the option you don't choose does not drop into the ether and disappear, right? Like it is okay. So huzzah, right? Okay. With that said, the first question is, and do not hate me, all right? Brooklyn or the Bronx?
So I can't answer that. I live in Brooklyn and I'm from the Bronx originally, and I'm a native New Yorker. How am I supposed to answer that? I can't.
My answer is Harlem. So Brooklyn and the Bronx are both cool, but I was born in Harlem.
I feel like I've only been to, last time I was in New York, I wanted to get to the Bronx to go to all those indie bookstores,
Yeah.
and I didn't make it there. But I've been to Brooklyn several times, so that's default.
Okay. Jenny says Brooklyn. What do you say, Stephanie?
I would say Brooklyn, a little bit prior to some of the gentrification. Like,
That's fair. That's fair. That one. That one.
but
You speaking my love language, sorry.
all right,
Let me tell
all
you
right.
some of the words I have right now for certain parts of Brooklyn. Anyway, don't get me started.
Okay. So the next question, I think, Clarence, this was also a question last time, but I'm asking it again. Janelle Monáe or Erykah Badu?
Okay, this is so. Okay, how about this? So, I'll say Erykah Badu, but with Arch Android album on continual repeat. How about
It's a good album.
Okay. I'm not mad at that. Keith, Stephanie, Todd?
I've seen both of them in concert like multiple times. It's so hard to say. And Arch Android is like, I love all her albums, but that's my favorite. But I probably would have to say Badu because like it's mother. I don't know.
See, yep, that's
it's a
what I was gonna
spirit.
say. Like, Janelle,
Yeah, Badu. It's almost like a spirit, and since since the idea of spirit and ancestor is ancestor is such a thing right now for our particular conversation. Yeah, Badu. It's a vibe.
yeah,
You know.
I would say Janelle Monáe is more my contemporary evolution, but Badu raised me, so I would have to go with Badu.
Okay. Breeze Bookish in the chat says Janelle Monáe all day.
Okay.
And I say Queen, so that's not really an option, but yeah. Okay, next one. Supercell or They Clone Tyrone?
Ooh,
I haven't watched. Ooh, will this be terrible for me to say? I haven't watched either. So I can't. Is this like? I feel like is like my black card gonna be revoked?
I would not come for your black card today. But both of these shows have been out for like a long minute.
they're really good.
I was writing a novel.
That is true. Fair. But we have all watched Sinners, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So no black cards revoked today. Jenny says, unpopular opinion, Erykah Badu rubs me a bit too before. That's not unfair.
Oh, sure. I would say I think for Badu, I almost think she would agree with this.
You might take it as a compliment.
Yeah, she might like,
Angela says, because of this invigorating conversation, I will read the book. Yes, read the book. It's available on bookshop.org, Libra FM, SistahScifi.com, and at your favorite library. And today we'll blow up the Schomburg, because why not? So yay. So two more. I'll tell you, and I guess Jay says, Jay will read it too. Next one. Octavia Butler or Toni Morrison?
You're wrong, Isis. You're wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong. So you literally like those are my two favorite authors of all time. So can I is there like a way like can I literally like claim like tie status? Like I really can't like I really can't like Brooklyn or the Bronx at the very least, like I could argue I'm just gonna keep my answer inside because I don't want people to come after me. But with
That
those
means
two, I really,
that
I'm at a loss. Like I really, you know, so.
And see, I feel like you could lean towards Tony because of your publishing background. You know.
So I could, but I'm still at my heart, I think I could be wrong, but I think everything I will always write will always be sci-fi, fantasy, heart will always be genre speculative. And so that's why Octavia, that's like,
But I
you
think
know,
a lot of what Toni Morrison wrote was speculative. She just wasn't put in that
was
part of the bookstore.
putting that, yeah, like clearly Beloved, yeah, was speculative, and then I need to go
Yeah.
into my head and
Love it.
but so
God bless the
I can't
child.
really answer that.
Okay, so Jenny says, I don't know. I'll get this book. He's not picking any answers. Suspect. The book is amazing.
Denny, wait a minute now. It should just go
Look,
to show you how much care he's putting into his answers and how much he loves these people. Like, no,
right.
no, Jenny.
Clarence is giving very nuanced answers,
Yes.
which we will accept. That's okay. But Butler did sweep in the chat. So Jenny said Butler, Adjua said Butler, and Zena is watching this. So what about I love Toni Morrison. Um, I think at one point, like I had read all the books she'd ever published, maybe not the short stories, but I think in this part of my life, I have to go with Octavia Butler. So yeah. Um,
Yeah, I think I feel similar to you, Isis, but because like again, right now in my life, I am Octavia Butler heavy. In my like leisurely reads, I'm trying to get through all of her canon. But Toni has her own special shelf in my library.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the way I explain Toni is that once I read her, I felt like I had the vocabulary to express my station and independence in the world.
yeah.
And so it will always be Toni for me. Octavia, you right there, number two. But like, it will always be Toni for me.
Mhm.
That's
I,
fair.
I mean, obviously,
All
I
right.
I just started on my Butler journey this year. I'm getting through, but I love them, but like I gotta go with Miss Woman.
That is fair. I'm sure both Tony and Octavia are in heaven, both smiling wildly. Um, and last one, Black Panther or Luke Cage. No, I keep
um
saying Black Panther, and it's supposed to be Black Lightning or Luke Cage.
oh
Because I'm
oh so I
big black.
would say I would say Luke Cage. It's partially I haven't so I've watched everything of Luke Cage and Black Lightning. Quite there were several seasons, correct? So I haven't gotten through them all, but I would say Luke Cage just because it's New York, it's Harlem. There are just
Oh,
certain
right.
sensibilities that I knew I was like, I know
Right.
what they're doing here. I see y'all. So I would say Luke Cage.
That's fair.
Right, Bree?
Bree said,
The comment storm over everybody.
which is fair. Which is fair.
Storm, it's her 50th
Yes,
anniversary
yes.
here. So yeah. So they've been doing a lot of Storm stuff. The new comic book series, The Storm, is really nice. It's really
I have to,
they're doing a
yeah.
good job. Yeah.
Yay.
Uh,
Okay.
I said Black Lightning.
Oh,
I
okay.
I
Okay.
never finished. I
I
was
mean,
watching it.
like, yeah, I'm Black Lightning as well. I mean, Luke Cage is in Harlem, but like, Black Lightning he's a family guy, and I love his family, and he got his daughters, and like, he's a teacher. My best friend's a teacher, so I gotta go with Black Lightning. So yeah,
That's,
this was so
that's exactly why I go
amazing.
with Luke Cage, because he's such a complicated sort of dark hero, and yeah, I would go with Luke Cage.
You go
Okay,
Luke,
okay,
yeah. I feel like they had a lot. My only complaint about Luke Cage is sometimes I wanted them to deepen his characters. I thought they could have done
They could.
more. Yeah. So, but I still appreciated it.
yeah,
So.
yeah. Thank you so much, This was amazing, Clarence. Thank you for your craft. Thank you for hanging out with us. You are amazing.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. I so appreciate this conversation and your time. It's so good to see y'all.
Yeah.
You too, Clarence.
Yeah.
All
Key and
right.
Stephanie, y'all were absolutely, positively amazing co-hosts. So thank you so much for one, rocking with me, and two, reading the book so thoroughly and closely. Y'all are amazing and an absolute gift. If somehow y'all made it to this point, like still wondering, we discussed The Ghosts of Gwendolyn Montgomery by Clarence A. Haynes. It's an amazing book. It came out last month. It is available on sistersci-fi.com, bookshop.org, Libra FM if you like audiobooks, and at your favorite local library. So copy your copy. All right. Yay!
Thank you,
Bree just
everybody.
got her copy.
Have a great evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.